Hi everyone, this is Eric from Cube Depot and you're listening to the Corner Cutter Podcast.
Hey guys, welcome to the Corner Cutter Podcast, the podcast all about cubing and how to improve. That's something I want to really focus on with this podcast. That is the how to improve part. In recent episodes, I think I've really been focusing on that, like in the Pyramix episode with Sorange, and let me think back. I think I gave some good tips 2 weeks ago as well, talking about the competition results. So I hope you guys are learning from this podcast, and I want the entertainment too, but I think learning and improving, I want to be a main part of the podcast. This week, and I can say week now without adding a qualifier, because this is now a weekly podcast, and I think this is the first speedcubing podcast that is a weekly podcast, especially in iTunes. So that is very exciting for TCCP. Thank you guys who have supported the show and keep coming back to the show every 2 weeks. So next week is not an interview, but I will have lots of interesting records, etc. This weekend was awesome. So keep your ear out for that next week, and then the week after I'll have another guest. And I've got a few really good ones coming up, so you'll want to hit the subscribe button. Anyway, this week's guest is Eric Zhao from Cube Depot, CubeDepotUSA.com. We talk about the history of the Cube store as well as lots of cubing hardware stuff. One other thing is we had a pretty bad connection on Skype, so he cut out a little bit throughout the call, just a few words or so every minute or two. So if you find that he's missing some words, that's the reason. But there was nothing I could do about it, and it still turned out okay. So let's jump right into the interview. Okay, now I have Eric Zhao from Cube Depot on the podcast. Welcome,
Hello.
Eric.
Yep, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Glad I was able to hook you up with the podcast. To start off, Why don't we jump right into Cube Depot and the services it offers?
Yep, so Cube Depot is I would describe full service cube store in the sense that we offer custom stickers and lubricants, setup services and everything on top of course, cubes. About Cube Depot, it was started in 2009, February, if I remember right. And yeah, this is my first business. Started it at that point. At the time that I started, I was 12, and actually the reason that it started is a little bit of a funny story. At that time, most of the cube stores were all based in China. You know, there weren't really any American cube stores where you could order from. Now you get free shipping and it comes in 2-3 days. Now it's like back then it was you paid $7 and then you waited 3 weeks to a month for a package to arrive. So it's quite a bit different now. So then I was like, I don't want to deal with that since it's just a lot of time to wait for a cube, especially when I was starting. I just wanted everything at once, kind of. And so my dad actually works and commutes back and forth between here and China every few months or so. And so I just kind of asked him to bring me back a bunch of cubes and stuff. I guess at the time it was mostly Ghost Hand cubes, if people even know that brand these days. And yeah, I just realized that 10 of those cubes, I could sell 9 of them. And when you buy a bunch of them in bulk, you get a slightly lower price. And I realized if I sold 9, I would be able to keep the 10th one for myself for free, essentially. And so, yeah, that's kind of how it started and it just grew from there.
Yeah, now, what was it like starting a business when you're 12 years old? That seems like a major step.
Mm-hmm. I guess I never really saw it at the beginning as like a business. Like I said, I just kind of kind of get cubes for myself to get it more into the hobby. Um, Only a lot of growing pains. Like, my parents helped me out a lot with like, how to track expenses, decide how much to like, you know. Um, but yeah, and then since then it has grown and it's just been a lot of fun.
Uh-huh. Now, what's unique about Cube Depot?
Um, I'd say probably the most unique thing is that we offer all the bells and whistles a major cube store would offer, um, but at a lower price point. I'd say that's probably the most unique thing in the sense that other stores, like the ones based in China or even Light Take now has a U.S. warehouse. Um, but the difference is that, they just offer cubes. They don't really have their own lubricants and stuff. They don't have setups, products, stuff like that. And so it's just kind of just like you get the best of both um, ends of the spectrum there, I think.
Yeah, and then that's great for cubers. Like, not everybody has a lot of money, since especially a lot of the people buying cubes are kids. So
Yeah, exactly. The demographics definitely getting younger and younger.
hmm Now, what does a normal day look like for you, a work day?
Yep. So workday, I would kind of wake up around 8:30, and try to get in by maybe 10, sometime around there. And then I guess it depends what really needs to be done. If, there's a bunch of cubes I have to set up, I'll definitely go work on those, of course, to get them out on time. And then with some other time, we'll be testing either different lubes or like different setups on cubes, different magnet arrangements, stuff like that on like different pro setup cubes. That's really what my day consists of. I don't really handle the processing of orders or a lot of customer service anymore, but yeah.
Uh-huh. How many people do you have working for you?
Around 5 people. Some of them are part-time, including myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you set up most of the cubes, or is that delegated out?
Yep. So right now, uh, all of the setup cubes I have in, um, whether it's stickering or lubing, I don't really magnetize the cubes anymore myself, but we have a couple people doing that. But I would kind of be the one magnetizing cubes that we haven't released yet, stuff like that, to kind of test what arrangements we want to go with.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, where did the rocket logo come about from?
Yep. Okay. So I don't know if you're familiar with our older logo, but it's pretty much just like a generic Rubik's Cube with like the words Cube Depot on it. And the main thing I didn't like about it was just that if you took away the words, it's just a generic Rubik's Cube, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
It looks the same. So what we really wanted was just to kind of have a logo that's more recognizable, and like distinguishable, where it's like if we took off the name, once it's established enough, you would still know what it's for, like what it represents, and something that would be just as like readable, I guess, like scaled down in terms of size. And so yeah, we just kind of we're bouncing around a couple ideas and just settled on this one.
Yeah, it looks great. Now, when did you do the launch of the rocket cubes? And are they just magnetic cubes, or do you set them up as well?
Yep.
Without magnets. Can you set them up without magnets, is what I meant to say.
Mm-hmm. We released them in late 2017, somewhere in the second half of the year. With our first one was the Wushuang. And I guess to touch on the easier question, we do sell them with a magnetic and non-magnetic version. So if you just want a lube setup, that's totally an option as well, and it's obviously a lot cheaper. So yeah, our first cube was the Whoosh, which is a little weird, I guess, since it's a 5x5, and probably not the place most people would think to start. But yeah, since now we have a 3x3, the GTS2 in a couple of flavors, as well as the Yushin Blue 4x4.
Mm-hmm. Now, this is a great segue to my next question. Do you see like bestsellers. What are the current bestsellers right now? And is there like an all-time bestseller for Cube Depot?
Uh-huh. Bestseller right now is with definitely since its release would be the GTS2, the magnetic version.
Mm-hmm.
All time, huh? That's something. I think we could track it. Let me look it up. Actually, I don't actually know off the top of my head which one most.
Yeah, this will be interesting. I would guess maybe like the Zanchi.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so there's actually something interesting about that. We relaunched our website in, I think, late 2014 or early 2015, and from that we lost all of the sales data. Well, not lost, but it's in a different system.
Mm-hmm.
Data from like different web hosts and stuff. So actually, I would only easily be able to look up the bestseller since we moved sites. It'd be interesting to see what it was from before then, but looking at it now, since we moved sites, the bestseller in terms of units was the Guanlong 3x3,
Okay.
the YJ, the original one.
Uh-huh.
I would imagine for sure if it included, the sales data since we began, it would probably be some Dion Cube.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Do you see, like, with world records, if, like, a world record's broken with, let's say, the GTS2, do you see an influx of those, or maybe when Felix breaks a world record, the SM?
I think there might be a small spike. It's not really like, it doesn't seem like it's mostly, someone got a world record, everyone wants to use that cube.
Mm-hmm.
Especially since nowadays all the top cubers are using, like, set up cubes from a specific store. So
Yeah.
I think it's more likely that specific store might experience it in that specific setup cube.
Yes, I see that. What about white plastic cubes? Are those going out of style? Do people buy them anymore? What's that about?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess it was never really like that popular.
Mm-hmm.
Especially now. Back in the day, the companies used to make the prices cheaper for the white cubes and stuff as like kind of a way to incentivize purchasing them, I guess. But since then, now that they're the same price, the sales have definitely dropped for them compared in terms of percentage, compared to their black counterparts or stickerless counterparts.
Mm-hmm. And then the new cubes coming out, you can kind of see that white plastic cubes are not being made anymore.
Mm-hmm. I think it'll probably always be an option to get them, like if you really wanted one, since they do still have to make the white plastic for their stickerless cubes and stuff. They probably don't want to assemble as many white cubes unless they reason to, considering, the time difference it would take to sticker a cube versus assembling a stickerless cube.
Uh-huh. Okay, I
since
see.
stickerless cubes, you just kind of put the pieces together and then you're done in a sense where like you don't need to do anything else after that. Versus in a white cube, even though you might be able to assemble the pieces a little bit faster, now you have to apply, 50, oh God, what is it, 56, 54, 54 stickers to the cube.
Mm-hmm.
And, with probably the sales volume of white cubes, it's much less worth it to do that when you could just do that for black cubes. Or they're limited edition cubes like the ones that are in pink or blue or something like that.
Okay, I see. Uh-huh. Now, do you see any, or could you give any hints for new cubes that might be coming out? Moyu recently mentioned they might be coming out with a clock. Is that true? Have you heard anything about that?
Well, they've been working on a clock for a while. I think they are constantly experiencing a lot of setbacks with it. It's always companies, like they're always like, obviously they're all working on, I'm sure a new cube for every type of WCA event.
Mm-hmm.
And they all have different timelines. Sometimes they might hit like a home run on like the first prototype and that pushes up the release schedule for that cube. Versus some cubes where it's like, you kind of expect it to, they experience a lot of different setbacks, like with the clock and stuff. And so it's really hard to say unless they kind of give us like a release date for it. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of different cubes in the works. So
yeah, but with a clock though, I could see if someone comes out with a decent or very good clock, they could